Hi. The story I'm reading to you today is one that's really close to my heart. After playing tennis in 2002, I woke up the next morning and I was paralyzed from the waist down. I learned that I had something called caudate syndrome. I was paralyzed two more times after that in 2003 and 2005. And as bad as that is, what really hurt me was that I didn't get any calls or cards or visits from any of the people that I worked with. And even the principal kept calling me and telling me that he was getting a lot of calls from the parents complaining because the report cards weren't there yet. And I'm like, I'm paralyzed. I'll get right on that. So I was hurt, and I've been hurt for a long time about it. So I wrote this story. And I think it's important to ask for help. And so I take some of the blame because I'm not very good at asking for help. Recently, I asked for help and it didn't turn out too good for me. So I think what I learned from that was it's important to ask for help. Do ask for help. But when you do ask for help, make sure you're talking to the right person, somebody that really cares about you. The name of my story is Gone with a Breeze, written and illustrated by Jae Julianne. This book is for my children, Renee, Nick, and Jennifer, and their children. They're very supportive and encouraging. They are my inspiration. On a warm, breezy summer day, if you listen very carefully, you may hear the soft, muffled sounds of a struggling little soul. Though the bluest of skies and the brightest of summer colors are all around you, you may sense that this small creature is attempting to make an entrance into the world. It's our Miss Starla. Shh, listen. Can you hear her? It's so dark and cramped in here. I've been stuck in here for days, yet I'm very excited about the new life ahead of me. I'm going to push a little bit right here. Yes. Oh my, it's bright. A little blinding and yet soothing. Our Starla pushes a little this way and then a little that way. Why is this so difficult? She gives a little grunt and then one really big kick. Starla pulls herself up and sneaks a peek out of the hole and inquires, "Excuse me, is there anyone out there?" As our little butterfly pries herself out of the cramped cocoon, she remains hopeful. She knows that her future will be filled with exciting adventures. Our Starla finally squeezes her way out into the new world and attempts to stretch out her new wings. But she's exhausted from her struggle and decides to take a rest on a nearby flower petal. There is a deep pain within her, and she believes that sipping on the nectar from the flower will help gain some strength. Later in the day, she tries to open her wings and realizes that something is terribly wrong. But our Miss Starla, she doesn't give up hope. She knows that sometimes you just need a little patience. Besides, she can worry about that tomorrow. Days go by and Starla is still unable to move her wings. She rests and watches the other butterflies move their wings and fly around with little effort. Starla takes great pleasure in watching them. They are all so beautiful and graceful. Our Miss Starla wants to fly so badly. She tries and tries to move her wings, but Starla is unable to fly. Well, she says, what I simply need is a little bit of advice. Our Miss Starla decides to get some help from the passing by butterflies. "Excuse me, just a minute. Can you help me?" Starla calls out, but they're all too busy with their days to stop and help. One drizzly day, a loud, clumsy moth carelessly crashes onto our Miss Starla's flower petal. She notices that he's a bit awkward and certainly not as graceful as the other butterflies, but she decides to tell him about her worries. Oh, not that he could help. "Albay and ailerons, those raindrops sure can be heavy on the wings," says the wayward moth. "Oh, I suppose so," says our Miss Starla, a bit confused. "Where are my manners? My name is Red Moth. It's a pleasure to make your acquaintance." Red bows and takes Starla's front leg and then gives her a gentle kiss. "How do you do?" says our blushed Starla, neglecting to give him her name. "I see that you are a bit odd, but I was wondering if you might be able to help me." Starla is a bit preoccupied with matters of importance. Red confesses that he doesn't know very much about butterflies, but he would do his best to help her if he could. Our Miss Starla tells him about her situation while Red listens very intently. He watches her as she tries to move her wings up and down. With great sadness, Red Moth informs our Miss Starla that he doesn't believe she will ever be able to fly. He tells her a story about his cousin who had the same problem. Sadly, our Miss Starla asks, "What happened to him?" Red Moth tells her that his cousin was so sad that he would never be able to fly, that he curled into a ball, closed his eyes, and gave up. Horrified, Starla cries out, "No! I will never give up. I will overcome this." Our Starla frantically asked Red Moth if he could help somehow. Oh, perhaps he could fly her to the library so she could do some research, or maybe they could gather information from other flying creatures. But our Red Moth, he has his own ideas. He told Starla about a special machine used by the humans that is a source of great information. Perhaps we can find some information about our wing problem. Our Miss Starla is very hopeful and asks him to take her there. Starla hops on his broad shoulders, and off they go to the tallest city building in the city. Of course, timing is everything, and today just wasn't meant to be their day. They tried time and time to get through those big glass doors. They kept getting pushed back by the rushing air, currents from the closing doors. Perhaps an open window, our Miss Starla suggests. They flew around the building and checked out all the windows. Most of them didn't even open. Those that did were closed with air conditioners in use. Our Red Moth pulls over to a daisy to rest and think. While they're thinking out loud, they hear this strange humming sound coming from underneath the petal. "Who are you?" they exclaim together. Our humble observer explains, "Oh, I am no one of importance. Some refer to me as the wise old bumble." A silly notion. The wise old bumble is deeply touched by our Starla's story and tells them of a very special plant that grows in the rainforest. It may just be the cure for our Miss Starla's illness. "But there are no rainforests around here," our Miss Starla frets. "Ah, yes," says the wise old bumble. "You will need to fly to the Amazon in South America. I have relatives near Quito who would be happy to assist you." "Oh, that is very nice of you," said Starla, "but remember, I can't fly." Our red moth boldly speaks up and says, I will go to the rainforest and bring back the medicine that you need. Our Miss Starla says, I cannot ask you to take such a long trip. A moth's life is very short-lived. You would be giving up your life plans so that I can fly. Our red moth stands tall with a puffy chest and proclaims, It would be an honor to serve you, my dear Starla. You are a strong, confident creature like I've never met before. It would be my greatest pleasure to watch you fly, if only for a moment. Off our red moth flies. He storms across the United States and then catches a seagull's tailwind over the Gulf of Mexico. He lands in Quito and meets up with wise old Bumble's relatives who had already collected a leafful of the badly needed medicine. They kindly offered him a place to stay the night, but thoughts of Starla and her condition kept him moving on. Weeks after they had left, our exhausted red moth returns only to find our Miss Starla lying on her flower petal, even weaker than before. Her eyes light up when she sees him, as do his. He lovingly serves her the nectar from the leaf, and she smiles a warm smile. The nectar is sweet and makes our Miss Starla feel a little dizzy inside. After a couple more sips, she attempts to move her wings. Very carefully, she moves them up and down. She is still very weak and needs to rest. Our Miss Starla feels hopeful that she is able to move her wings, but fears that she is not strong enough to fly. Red Moth says with much confidence, What you need, my dear Starla, is a summer breeze. Side by side, they sit and wait and wait and wait until. Do you feel that? Asks our red moth. Yes, I believe so, says our Miss Starla. Take my hand, says Red Moth, and be ready for the next breeze. The beginning. I wasn't the first one to illustrate Gone with the Breeze. My 2007 class of fourth graders were the first ones. This is a whole book of their illustrations, and this book is just as dear to me as the one I wrote. Thank you for listening.